NSFW, what is the strangest thing you've walked in on someone doing? My friend's mom jerking off her much younger boyfriend. They were in the kitchen and had their backs to me and my friend, but her arm position and movement were obvious. I didn't say anything about it to my friend and he seemed to be not bothered by it, or maybe used to it, or maybe too embarrassed to talk. Caught a former friend and his sister having sex on their couch. They had a basement living room with an outside door. We were going to play Dance Dance Revolution. I was bringing my pad over. I texted him. He responded. He knew I was on my way over and it was only a 5-minute drive. So, not only did he bang his sister, he also had this poor planning ability. That was supposed to be a threesome. Chris? Yeah. That's what I was thinking. He wanted him to bang his sister, but didn't want to make it weird, so he banged her first. Makes perfect sense. Lady at work held someone else's baby while she ran off to do something. Something that should only take a minute or two. I go into my office and wake up the computer. For some reason it automatically maximizes the security camera feed. I see the lady holding the baby, just plops out her boob and tries to breastfeed the baby. Then I guess a second later realizes it's not hers and tucks everything away. Who the duck thinks that's a normal thing to do? Question mark? Question mark? Like how can they possibly rationalize that whole thing in their head? Maybe her story was posted in that autopilot thread? I mean, if she was a new-ish mother too, maybe she just kinda forgot not my baby. Was sitting on the couch when my sister came downstairs. She must not have noticed me since I was originally working that day. While she was waiting for something to heat up in the microwave, she just kept turning in circles in the same spot. She did this for about 10 minutes, got her food out of the microwave, and immediately threw it away and went back upstairs. I've never mentioned to her that I saw this, and I have no idea what the hell she was doing. Another time I walked into the guest room upstairs and found my dad lying underneath the bed sleeping. He was still breathing, so I just left him there. Edit. I should add my sister was 22 when this happened. Double edit. You guys wanted me to ask my family what was up and I did. So here are the answers. Dad, while he doesn't remember the actual incident to a T, had a headache and was trying to get rid of it. Under the bed was dark and lying on his back helped him. Sister, she doesn't remember, but her explanation is that she likely was using her phone and just spinning, so her body was doing something. As for the food, she doesn't remember what it was. She does not have an eating disorder. It was just a brain fart on her part or something, I don't know. But she does not have, or has she ever, had an eating disorder. This was a couple years ago. Worked as a waiter in college. It was the late 80s. The third floor of our place was tiny, held 4 tables. Normally, for lunch we weren't busy enough to put people up there. Had a couple come in and request a table on the 3rd floor. When I brought the drinks, he told me to take my time coming back because his date had to run to the store for smokes. I come back about 10 minutes later and she is gone. This guy had a cell phone and it was the first one I had ever seen. I asked him about it and we talked for a few minutes about how it worked. He showed it to me and let me call my roommates so I could see how it sounded. I thanked him for showing it to me and went back downstairs. When I walked downstairs and my eyes got level with the floor, I glanced over at his table and I could see her shoes and knees underneath the tablecloth. He was in mid-blowjob while calmly and patiently explaining to me how cell phones work. Add cocaine and this sounds like the most stereotypical 80s businessman ever. Alan, is that a cell phone? Bateman, yes, it is. In '84, Motorola released this Dynatac 8000X, their most accomplished phone. I think they're undisputed masterpieces. When David D. Meelan placed the first commercial wireless call on a Dynatac from his 1983 Mercedes 380 SL to Bob Barnett, former president of Ameritech Mobile Communications. This was an important call because it's not just about the pleasures of modernity and the importance of trends. It's also a personal statement about the world of communication itself. Hey, Paul. Alan, who gets axe murdered. Bateman, try calling from a car in a tunnel now. You ducking stupid bastard. Not really a strange thing I walked into, but I just remembered this. I think 10 years ago I went to a public bathroom and saw my father washing his hands. He saw me and pointed to the middle stall, implying that the stall was empty. When I entered the stall I saw an old Asian man peeing and looking shocked, and I heard my dad laughing in the background. Nothing like some good father-son bonding. Walked in on friend's little brother as he was putting some of his mum's concealer powder on his ass before school. He said his bum was too red and it made him look like a baboon. He was around 8 or 9. What I really don't understand is why he was getting his ass out at school. Well, did you go to a Catholic school? That would explain things. He could have been bullied, having his pants pulled down, and teased for being a baboon. Or, the more innocent explanation, they had gym and they teased him in the locker room. My brother and I arranged to meet another friend at his house and duly arrived there at the stated time. We knocked the door and there is no response, but he 100% wanted us to come round, and we'd walked the best part of 2 miles to get to his house. This was pre-mobile phones, so we couldn't ring him, so we looked in the windows. There he was, yo-yo around his cock, dancing to music. Oh come on. We've all been there. Username checks out. Maybe 8 or so years ago, my boyfriend and I stayed at a hotel in Dallas. It was a nice hotel, courtyard with pool and hot tub. I couldn't wait to hang out in the hot tub after the long drive. We looked out the window to see if it was occupied and saw 5 or 6 middle-aged guys doing a genuine circle jerk. Decided to skip the hot tub. You witnessed a classic Reddit meetup. Something broken arms. Roll Tide. That F. Somebody once. That's all the Reddit circle jerks I could think of off the top of my head. Edit. Mom spaghetti. Walked in on my nan sitting up in bed miming to herself. Miming for lack of a better word. She was lifting invisible lids off jars and chucking stuff into invisible bowls and stirring shit. She was enjoying herself, you could tell, but it was a bizarre sight. What are doing nan? Exclamation mark. I was pretty horrified. Cooking, she said simply. First major sign of dementia. A year later she barely knew who I was. Dementia's a terrifying thing for all involved. I hope you're doing okay. My paternal grandmother stayed with my family for a while in her final months while I was 17. I went into her room one day and she addressed me by my dad's name and said she was so glad to see I made it back from the war. My dad fought in Vietnam. Then she started naming some young men from the neighborhood, their old one during the war of course, that died in action. I knew about my dad being in combat, had seen war footage of that time, and he had even told me some personal horror stories about his time. But my grandmother's reliving of that period hit me in an unexpectedly real way. A friend of mine was picking his nose when I walked in. Then he proceeded to put it back in for some reason. Why is this so funny to me? My old roommate would regularly down a whole bottle of whiskey in the middle of the night while doing lines of Xanax and watching anime in his cheap shitty kimono. Once he was good and ducked up, he would get one of his many swords/daggers and proceed to fake fight along with the anime. He did his own sound effects too. I went to take a piss in a mall's guy's room. There were 2 guys, fully clothed, laying on the grimy floor playing chess with a full-size chess set. They had to have been there for a while, it was pretty far into the game. Edit. Grammar. Fully clothed. Those sick freaks. It is a bathroom story. Figured I should add that in. About 20 years ago my dad's girlfriend and a family friend both had 6-year-old sons. I walked in his bedroom to tell them it was dinner time and they both had their dicks tied to the ceiling fan with strings. The fan was on. I have zero idea how they managed to do that. I slowly backed away and sent the parents upstairs. That's the sort of ingenuity and outside the box thinking that should be nurtured. Read that as neutered. I once walked in on a care staff member eating the food that he was supposed to be feeding to the frail old woman. That bastard. He killed Granny. When my son was 5 years old I gave him a bunch of coins to put in his bank. After a while I went to check on him. He was sitting naked on the floor showering his junk with the coins. Question mark? 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 That's why you should always wash your hands after touching money. Ass pennies. Many years ago a relative was staying over during the summer. Was looking for something I thought I may have left in the spare bedroom he was in. Walked in on him combing his pubes with a comb I thought I lost only a few days earlier. And then, you got any Louis Vuitton? I work in a large corporate restaurant. I once walked back into the kitchen on a slow day when there was only a few other servers on and this one new guy was standing by the soda station carefully trying to insert one straw into another. After a moment he put it down, walked around in a circle, did a little jig thing, then went right back to it. I left him to his business. Being bored is a hell of a drug. Only 3 hours left in the shift. At this rate, if I jig every 2 straws I can get 12 jigs. I had a roommate once who was sheltered. Sheltered as in she went to a school run by nuns before she came to university. By the second week of uni she started getting out of her shell. Started to realize she didn't need to do much to get boys. It was fun, but also annoying, because at night I could hear her having whisper phone sex while she thought I was asleep. This was the old days way before Tinder or smartphones. So there was no photos. Only her whispering voice and her dirty descriptive words. Anyway, one day she was in our room, and I walked in on her with a digital camera. My digital camera. Taking photos of herself with a cylindrical perfume bottle half inside her. It was also my perfume bottle. It later became known as the AUD puss spray. But did you get any AUD puss complex? It wasn't her mom's perfume. 2 drunk friends were trying to get their genital piercings unstuck from each other. They asked for help. I declined. And NBSP. Edit, holy shit, this got a lot of attention. To answer question for anyone else seeing it. And NBSP. It was a man and woman. And NBSP. The sex of those involved didn't matter. I'm cool with handling swords and sheaths. I just had a lot of issues with sex at the time. I wasn't a virgin, but my experience was limited, and the prospect of manhandling my friend's genitals and ever being able to make eye contact with them again wasn't something I had the confidence to do. And NBSP. The parts that got stuck was the chain that connected his piercings on his penis and the half-looped thing at her clitoris. I don't know a lot of piercing names. I'm all about tattoos, but piercings never interested me. And NBSP. They got stuck together likely because they were drunk and that made them clumsy. And NBSP. They did get unstuck. As far as I know it wasn't that painful for them, which was likely due to the alcohol. You're a bad friend. Guilty as charged. A coworker was sitting in his office armchair holding his fishing reel on his lap and stroking it. Godfather style. I just slowly backed out of his office. And no, it is not a euphemism for cock. He was actually stroking a fishing reel. He was secretly an android, and he wondered what it would be like to feel real. I walked in on my college roommate shoving a cucumber down his throat, and we made eye contact. So he just chomped down and started eating this huge mouthful of raw cucumber, like he meant to do it all along or something. I saw he had tears welling up in his eyes and wanted to spit it out. So I asked him WTF he was doing, and he said, I just don't understand how girls do it, man. I just wanted to see. Don't tell anyone. Okay, I'm serious. Let him know dicks are softer than cucumbers. Friend had an audio entertainment system in his bedroom at his parents' house, but could not get the skybox to work. It seemed to turn off other equipment, or you got sound but no picture. So he called the engineer out. The engineer turns up and begins fixing the problem. Turns out some cabling was incorrect. As he's fixing the problem, he begins testing some other bits like the stereo and DVD player to make sure he's found the issue. His parents come home and curiously wander in to see how it's all going. My friend is now standing there with the engineer and his parents when the DVD player flicks on to reveal a woman with a cage gag in her mouth, surrounded by men pissing and wanking into it. Turns out he had left a porno in the DVD, and it had continued playing from where it was left off. Everyone looks and gasps. The Skyman realized the error and frantically starts clicking buttons and remotes and pulling cables to get it off. But the surround sound kicks in and starts pumping out this weird porno at 100 decibels. The parents are just standing there in shock. Eventually the engineer just pulls a plug out the wall, while my friend just stands there wishing the ground would open up and swallow him. Everything goes quiet as the system shuts off, and the engineer apologizes for the error. My friend looks at his mum and all she says is, "Well, I've never seen anything like that," and wanders off downstairs. I looked up cage gag, because I'm more innocent than you and your friend, and all I can find is gag material for Nick Cage. I'm assuming that this is some sort of gag with bars, designed so that body fluids can enter the mouth, while sounds can't exit it, but some verification would be nice. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.